And literally nobody questions this, sorry, the cat sneezed.
All right, let's just take 5 and try it again tomorrow.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Book Retorts. I'm Danielle.
I'm Sam.
And this is a podcast where one of us explains a weird piece of media to the other who doesn't have any experience with it.
Yes, I am like a newborn babe looking at the world for the first time, Danielle. Teach me what I must know.
Do you think of these things beforehand, Sam?
No. They'd be better if I did, probably.
All right, well, today, I thought I'd go back to our roots.
Okay, we have roots?
We have roots. My very first episode that I did, I think, was it our first one, Nancy Drew and the vampire? Was it the vampire one?
Maybe?
We no longer remember. We've
it
had
was
so
the
many
vampire
episodes.
one. I'm thinking of Sleight of Dan was the second one.
That was the second one.
I got the magician and the vampire confused because they're pretty much the same thing, and they live in the same house.
They do. And I am not doing Nancy Drew again, everybody. I'm sorry, but we are going to hit the road here with some vampires.
Oh, well, that is less exciting.
So today I'm going to be doing, and you're going to be pitching in here, Sam, the 2014 movie Vampire Academy.
Oh, I'm going to learn.
Yes, you're going to school. We're going to school you today, Sam.
Well, one thing about me, Danielle, is that I'm always ready to do some schooling.
You do like school.
Like fish.
Okay. I'm going to send you the summary to this.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, before you go down the path that we can't get back from.
All right, here's what you have sent me. Teenager Rose Hathaway, Zoe Dutch, is a Dhampir. That's a word I've not seen. A vampire-human hybrid. Her best friend is Lissa Dragomir. Okay, come on. Dragomir? All right, Lucy Fry. A princess of the Moroi? Mortal peaceful vampires. There's already more lore in the first sentence of the description than I'm ready to handle.
This is based on a book, and it tries so hard to put so much of the book into it.
All right, so here we go. Both teens attend St. Vladimir's, Academy, a secret haven for those like them. Rose trains with a handsome mentor, Daniela Kozlovsky.
I think it's probably like Danila. I'm sorry, everybody. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Okay. To guarantee her place as Lissa's guardian, although she may have to sacrifice everything to protect Lissa from enemies both within St. Vladimir's walls and outside them. So, wait, I have so many questions already. What I'm gathering here is that Rose is a human vampire hybrid who is somehow been assigned as protector and bodyguard to a peaceful vampire, Moroi, while she's crushing on her mentor, which is not okay in a school setting, let me be clear.
We'll get into that.
And they all attend a school with the most obvious name for a vampire school ever.
Sort of.
Got it. All right, well, I look forward to hearing how this all plays out.
So the movie opens, again, as I said, this movie is based on a series of books, not just one book.
Do they try to put the entire series into one movie?
No, they thought that this would be a big hit, and so they were going to do a bunch of movies, and it didn't end up happening. So most of the plot is resolved by the end of this first movie. I would say it's relatively speaking a standalone, but there's clearly, they clearly plan to have more movies after this.
Oh, well, maybe someone out there who is a filmmaker and hears our podcast can feel the inspiration to finish this brilliant epic.
Or you could just read the books, which are, no offense to this movie, better than the movie, having read most of them, if not all of them. I don't know, it was a while ago, but I read a bunch of these books at one point.
All right, Danielle, way to crush the dreams of a young filmmaker.
Sorry, but you can do it. You go. I'll watch Vampire Academy, too. We might even do it on the podcast.
For sure.
So this movie opens with a car driving at night, and there's some teens in the back seat. The parents, assumedly, are in the front seat. They're arguing over music, and a car driving towards them veers off the road and slams into them.
Oh no! Start with the death of a family? No. What a dark movie.
It is. And then the car's upside down, and there's this bloody girl that's crawling towards another person with their arm outside of the car, and that scene ends.
Okay, glad we had that scene.
We did. Well, it ends because Rose, our main character here, she awakens. It's clearly some kind of dream that she was having, and she calls out for Lissa, who, as we established in the summary, is the other character.
Oh, it's Lissa, not Lisa.
It is. I figured I'd correct it once we got into the story.
Thanks, Danielle. I appreciate
You're welcome.
that. I gotta say, that's not my fault. It's spelled like Lisa.
I'm kind of Lissa.
Well, it's spelled like someone who would spell like, Caden with a Y and a CH.
Correct.
So,
Well, it is Lissa. Rose and Lissa.
Rose and Lissa, fine. All right. I accept that.
So she calls out for Lissa, and Lissa's in the other room. She's in the throes of a nightmare, which turns out to be the accident that Rose was dreaming of.
So Rose was dreaming her dream.
Yes. And Lissa says she can't get over Rose being in her head since the accident. So this is clearly a newer phenomena. So she's literally seeing the same thing that Lissa's seeing.
Oh, her name's Alyssa.
No, it's Lissa.
Oh.
Lissa.
You said Alyssa.
Still just Lissa. I said I maybe put a little guttural, what is that called? A glottal stop.
Sure.
Before my L.
All right, welcome to the Linguistic Podcast, where we talk about noises. Point is, none of this makes sense already. Like, so Rose in Lissa's head, but since the accident, which is presumably the one she's dreaming about, so is Lissa dreaming it, or is Rose dreaming it? Because when Rose woke up, why was Lissa still dreaming the dream?
Lissa is dreaming it,
okay.
And Rose was just in her head, and then woke up, and Lissa's still dreaming it.
And Lissa's upset about Rose being in her head.
I'm not upset, just kind of like, it's weird for her.
Well, yeah, that would be weird.
It is. It gets weirder.
Boy.
Lissa points out loud, I assume only for the audience, because Rose already knows this, that it's only been a year since they left the academy and 2 years since the accident. And she asks Rose, like, don't you ever think about stopping, like not having to be on the run all the time is basically what she's asking. Is
this movie a flashback?
No.
Okay, because they're like, it's 2 years since we left the academy. Let's go back to find out how that happened.
No, they don't get into that really at all.
Okay. Okay, great.
There are a lot of flashbacks in this movie, but it's flashbacks to stuff that happened at the academy, but it's still in this scene and everything forward is in present tense. Sorry.
I don't know.
So Rose is like, nope, never thought about stopping. I only think about keeping you safe, and the academy's definitely still after us, so we need to be on our guard.
So this movie is trying very hard to set up a bunch of like, ooh, what does that mean kind of stuff, but ends up just coming across as confusing?
Yes. Partly, I think it's because they somehow assume you have some kind of basic knowledge of what the story was about, and
That's
there's a lot of heavy-handed, like, there's a lot of voiceover, and there's a lot of heavy-handed information dumping.
Great. Those are my favorite things.
I know. That's what makes this movie so much fun. This is what makes the movie weirder than the book. Because I would not actually necessarily do the book on this podcast. It's way too coherent. But this movie somehow makes it way less coherent.
You're barely past the first scene. I'm already confused. So that tracks.
So Lissa tries to get up from the bed. It's still kind of the middle of the night. And she's a little dizzy. And Rose like, you haven't eaten lately, have you? And she's like, go into the kitchen. I'll get you some food. And then she sits down in the kitchen and offers herself to be eaten.
That's so, like, why bother going to the kitchen?
I don't know. I wondered that as well. I think it's just so you can do the play of like going to the kitchen. I'll make you some breakfast, and it's her.
Isn't Rose half vampire?
Yes, but I don't remember from the books. I'll be honest. It's been a hot minute. It's like 20 years or something since I read the books. 15 years. And so I do not remember the whole concept behind it, but she is mostly human.
Mostly human, but... like,
she's half and half. I think her mom is Dhampir, and her dad, I assume, is Moroi. Oh. But she's like... Uh-huh. Sorry, I meant her dad. So her mom is Dhampir, and her dad is human, but she... doesn't have, like, that's just like super, Dhampirs are just like super strength kind of kick butt sidekicks to the vampires. They're not like vampiric themselves necessarily. Because
the description said human vampire hybrid.
I think that was just easier for them to explain it that way, because technically the Dhampirs are sort of vampiric. I don't know, Sam, they don't get into it in the movie.
All I'm saying is if she's part vampire, doesn't that like take her out of the food options for vampires? I mean, I don't know how vampires
it's really
work.
frowned upon. Like, it's not supposed to, you're not supposed to, like, eat your Dhampir, but this is...
Well, I mean, that's one thing, but I'm talking about, like, the physiology of this.
Yeah, apparently it's fine, because she can eat a hamburger. She says it in the thing. She's like, we bleed, you can eat hamburgers, we die. They're basically human.
They're just humans with a funny name. Do they have any abilities that make them Dhampir?
Not in this first movie, no.
So it's just a name for, like, human companion.
Yeah, but these are, like, a much bigger deal because it seems to imply that the Moroi, because they're, like, peace-loving, nice vampires, they don't...
Is this like the vegetarian vampires from...
They still eat humans, but we'll get into this in a little bit, but they're...
I'm sorry, Danielle. I'm really taking us way further down than we need to. I'm sure the movie will address all my questions in great detail, and I'll have no problem with any of it.
It does not at all. But they are peace-loving vampires who seem to not be able to fend for themselves. And so the Dhampir are their, like, guardians. What? They're the ones that do all... I don't know why none of the vampires can, like, take a kickboxing class and learn how to,
why do the Dhampir serve them? Do they have, like, some, like, oh, the ancient contract is that we serve you and then we give you lots of gold? Or is it just like, it's just the way things are? Because I don't think you could create a servant class for not powerful vampires.
Yeah, this movie does not get into why the Dhampir are involved with the Moroi at all.
And like, I'm sure there are other vampires who are not the peace-loving kind.
We'll get there. It was in the summary, Sam. Was it in the summary?
Kind of. All it says is they're enemies. It doesn't say what those enemies are. If they're vampire hunters or they're the vampires. I didn't give
you the other summary that told you absolutely nothing. I gave you the summary that had a little bit of plot in it.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate that. That was a mistake on your part, because now I have questions.
I'm sorry, but we'll get to some of them, but definitely only like 7% of them.
Oh, okay.
Very specific number.
I was about to say, you've done the math.
So anyway, Lissa has this huge mouth with these sharp little teeth, and Rose is kind of into it. It's a little homoerotic,
sure.
And they never go into that ever again, like her emotional state or how it feels or anything like that. They're just like, she clearly is like, ooh, that bite feels good, and that's it. That's all they say about that.
And she doesn't get turned to a vampire by the bite.
No, she doesn't.
Do vampires turn people in this movie?
We'll get there.
Okay.
So after all this is done, you just clean yourself up. They have a cat. The cat meows, and Rose looks over, and she sees someone in the alley outside of the apartment.
And the cat's like, hey, I'm telling you there's someone in the alley, because cats do that.
That's what cats do. Magic cats, I guess. And Rose is like, Lissa, those are guardians. We've got to get going. So a guardian, it seems to imply that guardians aren't as big a deal as, like, whatever the big bad evil is, but they're still a big deal, and they need to get going.
Cool.
So...
Sure,
they
Guardians,
they run outside.
Moroi, Dhampir,
There's so
Lissa.
many names.
This is like a generic fantasy movie where they replace all the fantasy terms with vampire terms.
Yes.
Got it.
But you do have to remember that these were books and therefore much more developed in the book, but in this movie, nothing makes sense.
Yeah, okay, sure. I just love when we get a whole bunch of random terms that like, oh yeah, the Moroi. The what? I'm supposed to know what that is?
Well, we'll get there because she has a voiceover shortly.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to... jump the gun. This movie clearly explains it all like Clarissa.
It does. They run outside. Rose unscrews the gas cap of a motorcycle and like stuffs a little towel in there and pours some alcohol on it, lights it on fire, and pushes it towards these two guardians that are standing there.
Oh, it's never going to work.
No, it does. It drives straight for them. Like she starts it up, it drives straight for them, and then it explodes promptly upon reaching them.
It's a motorcycle, right?
Uh-huh.
Why would it drive straight?
I don't know.
Why would it explode? Because air-fuel mixture. Anyway, that's dumb. Let's go on.
It obviously allows for the perfect diversion, though, because Rose kicks some other guards' butts, Lissa runs for it, and they make it to their car. And as they're getting into their car, a man with shoulder-length flowing locks and a trench coat appears.
There's
and he
the vampire.
says, he's not a vampire.
Well, then what's the point?
He says, Princess Vasilisa Dragomir, my name is Dmitry Belikov, and I've come to take you back to St. Vladimir's Academy. I don't know why he felt the need to announce it, but he did.
He didn't just go, come with me if you want to live?
No, it's close enough, though.
Okay, great. I thought they ran away from the academy.
They did, but the academy's been looking for them.
Yeah, and they didn't want to be found, so that's bad. 2, thanks for the introductions, buddy, with the full names. Appreciate that. 3, why is a non-vampire, like, working for the Vampire Academy?
Well, we'll get there, but he's a Dhampir, too.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry, that was...
There are no humans at the Vampire Academy. They're all either Dhampirs or Moroi.
Okay, but there are no vampires either.
The Moroi are vampires.
Yeah,
they're
but
just
they're no, like
nice
non-Moroi vampires.
No, they're not.
This is a racist school.
No, well, we'll get to... There's only 2 versions of vampires, Sam. We'll get to it.
That doesn't make any less racist.
Well, you'll see. I'm not necessarily disagreeing, but you'll see why the other race of vampires is not invited to the school.
There are only star-bellied sneeches and plain-bellied sneeches. That's okay to make the plain-bellied sneeches not invited to our academy.
They're not exactly both nice vampires, Sam.
Well, maybe if you gave them a chance and didn't, ostracize them, Danielle, and refuse to educate them.
Yes, that's the problem.
I'm saying it's prejudice, Danielle.
Yeah, definitely. I'm on your side, Sam.
Yeah, sure. You just want me to shut up so you can go on.
I did. That's true.
All right, well, fine.
So Rose steps forward and she's like, the only way you're going to get to Lissa is to go through me. So he knocks her unconscious.
Wow. You're really setting up her as a real hero.
That's pretty funny. And then she said, this is when Rose does one of her 10,000 voiceovers that you're going to hear throughout this film. She says, Lissa, as she's apparently unconscious. I guess this is what she's doing her voiceover. Lissa is a princess in a line of a mystical race called the Moroi. And they quote, don't wear capes or sleep in coffins. Daylight annoys them but doesn't kill them. They don't live forever. They don't sparkle.
At least there's that.
Which is obviously a very strong reference to Twilight.
Yeah, no kidding. But, I mean, really, you're not doing a whole lot better.
And because they don't live forever, and they're peace-loving, they're paired with a Dhampir, which is a guardian like Rose. She's half Moroi, so she doesn't need blood. She eats human food. She's mostly human.
So Rose is half Moroi.
Yeah, she's half Moroi, No, she's...
You said half Moroi, didn't you?
I think she's half Dhampir.
Half Dhampir?
Gosh, Sam,
do Dhampir have to drink blood, too?
Hang on a second.
You have no idea what's going on in this movie/book.
I can't remember. I thought she
disaster,
said Moroi.
Danielle, disaster.
Hang on. Let's see. I can't remember which one. They're very confusing, Sam. The movie's very confusing.
There's only 2 things, Danielle. Either Dhampir or Moroi, or apparently just regular vampire. We'll call it vampire vanilla, or maybe vampire original flavor. But if, I just don't understand the rules about, what is a Dhampir? You said it was just a person, but because you said it makes it sound like she's special, that she doesn't have to drink blood, that she can eat hamburgers as a Dhampir.
It's not special. She's just explaining what her race is. She's a Dhampir.
Sure.
Which is like when Moroi mate with humans.
So, 2 Moroi make Moroi. Moroi plus human equals Dhampir. So they're like the mules of the vampire world.
Exactly.
Boy, that is a derogatory way to put them. Hey, you people, you're our children, but you're like a lower class that must serve us and protect us. Got it.
Yeah. The book gets way more into that. The movie does not remotely talk about it.
Okay, well, I'm glad the book at least addresses the ickiness of that.
So Dhampirs have originally been born from Moroi mixing with humans. They cannot reproduce with each other or with humans, but only with Moroi. When Dhampirs and Morois have children together, they come out as standard Dhampirs. Half human and half vampire.
So a Dhampir is a half vampire, and if a half vampire into the full vampire, it's still just a half vampire, not a 3/4?
And so I can't remember for the life of me, because they don't talk about it in there, if her father is a human or if he's a Moroi. Her mother is a Dhampir.
So then her father must be Moroi.
Must be a Moroi.
Glad we solved that mystery, Danielle.
Well, that's what was confusing me, is because I knew her mother was a Dhampir, and then I was like, well, if Moroi are mixing with humans to have Dhampirs, can a Dhampir mix with a Moroi to have a half human, half... That was my thought. That's why I got confused, Sam, because I was like, wait, what was it? Because it does come into play in the books, but I, couldn't remember the whole thing.
I mean, I'm not a geneticist, Danielle, but it just seems to me that if you have one group that must mate with itself to produce more of itself. So Moroi must mate with Morois to make more Moroi, but they're interbreeding with another group that whenever they mate with them produces more of the second group. The first group is going to either dwindle or become genetically stagnant.
Yes, but regardless, as a Dhampir, she doesn't need to eat blood.
Then what's that? I still don't know you say Dhampir like it means something. I don't know what it is. It's just a human from all I can tell right now.
Well,
it's a half vampire. Right. It has no vampire characteristics.
Sam, the movie never gets into it, okay? If you're pretending I know as much as you know from this particular movie, I don't know anything more than you do at this point about what a Dhampir is.
All right, fine. But I'm just saying, why even have a term for it? They're just humans. But
apparently they're not. I'm sure they have some kind of superpower, super strength.
Do they in the book?
They're super strong and they can be great. I think the concept is that just Dhampirs are really strong and they are really good guardians and good warriors.
Okay, so they're they're superhuman.
Yeah, I think the vampire side of them gives them that super strength.
So
because that's their whole premise in this.
So why haven't they taken over? They're like the they're like the Moroi, but better, because they don't have all the weaknesses, but they have all the strength. They should be ruling them.
Again, the books get way more into this, but this is just the first movie, and all it's about teenage politics. There's not anything going on with this yet.
I'm sorry, Danielle. I am taking this all very seriously.
Maybe we'll do the second book of the series and get more into the Dhampir Moroi mythology and we'll do the wars.
Movie first, then book 2, and then maybe the graphic novel just to round it out.
I mean, why not? There's a lot of books.
Let's get back to actually what this movie is doing, because I think we spent enough time trying to figure out the genealogy of Rose and how meaningless that is, apparently.
She's a superhuman, okay?
Doesn't seem that way. She got, smacked down immediately.
Well, she hasn't been in training for a year, and she's very young. So anyway, she wakes up. She's handcuffed in a car. Dimitri isn't saying much because she kind of rattles on about how she kept Lissa safe for a year. Doesn't she deserve some credit?
No.
And then in a really blatant display, I don't think it was meant to be. It's just how it's portrayed in the film. He pulls his locks off of his neck, and there's a tattoo at the nape of his neck that has all these little X's on it, and each X represents how many Strigoi he has killed. And Strigoi are the
just call them vampires. You had to call them Strigoi.
They're the evil vampires, Sam.
I figured that out, Danielle.
As for our listeners who maybe weren't following along because they were still stuck on what a Dhampir was.
Or who just tuned us out after we were rattling on about our dumb argument for 10 minutes.
You were rattling on for 10 minutes.
Oh, okay, Danielle. Yeah, it's all my fault. You're an accessory at least.
So anyway, he's killed 6 Strigoi, which apparently is an impressive number according to Rose.
Okay, cool. I have no context for any of this.
Right. Doesn't matter. At this point, you just have to know that Dimitri is apparently a big deal. He's killed 6 Strigoi, and that they make the marks on the nape of their neck.
Right. So they fighter pilots who paint their kills on the nose of their ship.
Give or take. And so Dimitri's kind of ignoring her, and it's clear in the car, there's Lissa and Rose have this telepathic conversation back and forth.
Of course.
And it's clear in the car that that's happening, and Dimitri kind of looks over suspiciously at them. Do they think they're talking to each other?
I mean, how can you have telepathy and still be that obvious?
You'll see why in a few minutes. Because right now you don't know. So they reach this gate, and it's assumed that it's the gate of the school or something, and it's supposed to be protected, but it's not. There's nobody there. It's pitch dark outside. And a man falls on the windshield while they're just sitting in the car, and everybody goes into high alert. So Dimitri, flies out of the car, not literally, and he goes
Thanks for clarifying. I was going to ask.
I knew you would. And it's the Strigoi. They've attacked this gate, I guess, and killed some of the guards. And there's another voiceover.
Whenever you say Strigoi, I keep on thinking of a sausage roll.
Yeah, it could be. Anyway. I mean, you only see them briefly. I guess they could be sausage rolls.
There's gotta be I'm thinking there's gotta be a sausage roll that's called a Strigoi or something like that.
It sounds tasty. I'd eat it.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue. There's another voiceover.
So the voiceover says that these are the evil vampires. They only come out at night. They can only be killed by a silver stake. And they
silver stake?
Yeah. And they can turn other Moroi into them.
So they can only turn Moroi into them.
I don't know that, Sam. It says they can turn other vampires into them. It also could be Dhampir. Who knows? The story does not tell you.
And the humans are just irrelevant. Cool.
Yeah, I don't know if they can turn humans into vampires.
Because
into Strigoi.
It seems like if their only prey is the Moroi, and the Moroi are breeding themselves out of existence with the Dhampir, it doesn't sound like a sustainable ecosystem.
It does not. I'm glad I didn't read this book again prior to watching the movie so that I can't answer any of your questions.
I love it, Danielle. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So apparently these Strigoi are super strong. It takes 5 of their Dhampir to kill even one of them. And it's person after person's dying in their little contingent. Apparently Dimitri's the only strong person. I guess he's the only skilled hunter in this entire group of people. So the
specially bred guardians of the Moroi or the Dhampir who are superhuman, but they're still weaklings compared to the Strigoi, and the Strigoi still haven't won this war?
Yes.
Great. None of the relative abilities or strengths of any of these groups make any sense to me.
Well, this is the beginning of bad stuff. This is where this book kind of starts off. Yes, theoretically, prior to this, the Strigoi would have won.
Oh, immediately.
So Rose is like captivated. She's only seen them in training films. She's never actually seen one in real life because she would die quickly.
Yeah, I figured that.
And he's trying to make her wait in the car, but of course she ends up getting out of the car and he gets really angry at her, but it's okay. Help arrives from the school and they beat out the Strigoi and they make it into the school grounds.
Yay!
Yay! And the fact that the Strigoi seem to have attacked the school property line does not ever come into play ever again.
What do you mean?
Like, well, they're at a giant gate, which one can only assume is like leading onto the property line of the school.
You're saying they never press their assault?
Yeah, like nothing ever happens with that.
So they attack the gate and then they win. They're like, all right, time to go.
Yeah, I guess so. Like the Strigoi just disappear, they go into school, and it's never mentioned again.
Well, that's why they're not winning. They're strategically idiots.
So St. Vladimir's Academy is, as you know, a magic vampire school, Sam.
Is it magic?
It's just, a vampire school.
Okay, because I was saying, are we going to put magic into this too? Because I don't know if I can handle that.
Sort of, because the Moroi actually have power over the elements. Which doesn't come much into play in this story at all, but they're supposed to choose one as a specialty. Like that's what their thing is. Each Moroi has a specialty.
Is Lissa's specialty that she wants to do all of them and doesn't want to pick one?
Maybe.
Yeah, of course.
So they're brought back into school during a class change, like in between classes. So everybody's staring at them because they've been gone for a year.
Wait. I'm sorry. I want to paint this scene for a second because this is ludicrous to me. There was just a massive attack where a bunch of people were murdered, including many people in the party of the arriving people of right. Rose and Lissa.
Somewhere off, not immediately on the school grounds, but somewhere off.
So they just walk into school and they're like, oh yeah, all those people died. Second period, gotta go to math class.
It's wild. It's like the weirdest thing in the whole world. I don't think any of the school children know that there was just a giant fight, but they don't seem to like collect the bodies or anything.
All right. I mean, either the administration is hiding some stuff from this, like we don't want the parents to complain at the next PTA meeting, they're going to shut us down, or the students just don't care, the most jaded people on the earth.
I don't think any of the students know that like off property there was just a bunch of Dhampirs that got killed.
Oh, wow. Okay, great.
I don't think they know. Like it just seemed like it wasn't immediately on school grounds. It seems like it was kind of in the forest somewhere and then they came on to school grounds.
You don't have the answer to this question. I'm not going to ask you anyway.
They don't say anything.
Do the Dhampir ever have a choice in there? Like, is it just like, hey, congratulations, you're going to probably die in service to these vampire Moroi people? Or they're like, hey, you can be an accountant, you could be, I don't know, a teacher, or you could, work in this bodyguard. Are they given a choice is my point? Or are they conscripted?
I feel like in the books, there's a lot more discussion about that. In this particular, the only Dhampirs you see are like a handful of the students, obviously, and then a couple of the adults that
Got it.
And so they're all part of that society and want to be part of that society.
I want to know about the non-involved Dhampir. Like, good thing I got out of that gig. It was clearly not safe.
I don't know. I don't remember the rules on that. I just remember that being I feel like that was a bigger idea in the book.
All right. Well,
listeners, feel free to chip in and remind me.
We're going to need a lot of help from our listeners at the end of this episode to fill in just Grand Canyon-sized gaps in our knowledge about this media.
And from one person who's actually read most of the series and still can't remember.
For me, at least I have an excuse.
Anyway, so they're taken to the headmistress, and she's super angry that they left
people
school.
Just died. Oh, no, about the people.
No, she's not mad about that at all. She seems to have no knowledge of that. It told you, it is literally never brought up again. She's not mad about that. She's mad that they left school. And she's almost immediately interrupted by another member of the royal family. And it's this old Moroi named Victor.
Sure.
And Rose and Lissa both seem very happy to see him. So Rose tells Victor, she's like, oh, you don't look like you're feeling well. And Victor agrees and tells them that his Sandowski syndrome has gotten worse.
All right.
This is never explained, Sam.
Why do you find movies with weird illnesses that make no sense? Like this and Hansel and Gretel?
Or what was the other one that had a weird illness that didn't make any sense? Joe versus a volcano?
Yeah, that one? Yes, right. Yes, thank you. I knew I was going to get there.
Yeah. See, he clearly looks ill, like he's dark circles under his eyes, like not like any vampire should ever look. Like he looks like he's old, decrepit, and sickly. But apparently this is called Sandowski syndrome, and it never gets into it in the movie.
Well, I'm glad they are mortal and diseased, so great.
Yeah. Apparently this is just a one-off. It's not anybody else. Nobody else has Sandowski syndrome. It's just
they named it after him.
I don't think so. I think it's a thing. It's just He's the only character we see with it.
Oh, okay.
So he begs the headmistress to take pity on them, and she's not the nicest person. She's like, I have the utmost sorrow for the death of your parents and your brother, Lissa, which is clearly a reference to the car accident.
So they're super vampires who were killed in a car accident.
Yes. But why would you leave a heavily guarded school to be at risk out in the world, by the Strigoi? Because if she's kidnapped by the Strigoi, they'll turn her into one of them.
But also, who cares?
Who cares if she's turned into one of them?
I mean, yes, that's bad, but why is she more special than, anyone else at the academy? Or is this, standard
royalty?
Procedure? Yeah, but, do they have any actual power? What do they rule? They don't have, a country of... I'm assuming they all live in secret, right?
Well, they do, but they're, in charge of the entire secret world.
That seems very archaic. They should be... Well, I'm pushing now for the vampire democracy movement.
Okay, well, none of that's happening with this, at least. There's 12 royal families, and they
12?
Take turns. I don't know. It's very confusing. It doesn't go into it much,
yeah,
but they
12
take turns.
We don't care about one of them. Who cares? Let's get the next one. It's fine. We got a dozen more we can pull from.
And she's now at, she's one of the people who could potentially rule because of Victor having the Sandowski syndrome. He's not well enough, and so she's, in line to potentially rule coming up here
Is it
shortly.
a council? Is it an oligarchy?
I don't know the answer to that, Sam.
All right, sorry. She's somehow important because she's a princess and has to be a princess vampire because book.
Because she's super important. She needs to be important for the rest of the story to work out.
Okay. Do the Strigoi know this? Are they thinking or are they bestial?
Both. It depends on the Strigoi.
I can't get a straight answer out of you from anything.
That's because it kind of gets into it at the end, but they don't spend a lot of time with the Strigoi, Sam.
All right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I keep interrupting, but you're throwing a lot of dense lore at me, and none of it makes sense.
I know. This is going to be a long episode.
I have to cut out half of this episode.
Sorry. So Rose says that she felt more secure outside of the school than inside the school, and literally nobody questions this, which I thought was kind of weird.
Yeah, that's either an indictment of the school security or she's delusional.
Yes. And then Rose is sitting in the, she's being yelled at by the headmistress, and she sees a teacher list and notices a name on it, which is the name Miss Carp. And she kind of interrupts the headmistress and is like, bring Miss Carp in. She can explain a little bit more about what was going on, shed some light on the situation. And the headmistress is like, she's no longer involved with the school. And when asked why, the headmistress yells, that's not important. She's crazy.
What?
They're just the conversation makes no sense, Sam, because it goes back and forth. They're like, she didn't feel safe in the school. Nobody asks why. They're like, please bring Miss Carp in. She can explain stuff. And they're like, oh, she's no longer involved in this school. Well, why isn't she involved in the school? We're not telling you that information. And we're also not going to ask why Miss Carp would be the person that could shed all the light on this situation. They basically don't press for answers on either side.
Dialogue that was from Tommy Wiseau in The Room.
It's so weird. It's like whiplash listening to these two people talk and nothing's resolved.
Ugh.
And then the headmistress seems to go from just kind of mean and a little yelly to really cruel, which is an interesting change. And so she tells Lissa that she's a possible contender for the throne, so she's, super important. But Rose is nobody. She could easily be, quote unquote, a blood whore, which seems to be something Moroi men would want.
So is this fetishizing drinking the blood of a Dhampir?
Yes, definitely that. And that definitely goes more into the book. It does not go into it at all in this movie. But to say that to a 17-year-old girl.
No, I'm going to understand why Rose left the school.
What the heck, headmistress? And you can tell Dimitri's kind of uncomfortable with where the conversation's going. He interrupts the conversation and tells her that Rose and Lissa have, quote unquote, the bond.
The bond.
The bond, which is apparently the ability for Rose to know what Lissa is thinking or feeling.
Oh, I thought it was berry bonds.
Yes, berry bonds.
The bond. All right.
Terrible joke. Anyway.
Look, I gotta do what I can do, all right?
And it seems to imply that Rose can only know what Lissa is feeling or thinking, not Lissa can't know what Rose is thinking or feeling.
It's unidirectional.
Yeah. And he says even when they're not next to each other, but I don't think he actually saw them not next to each other because they were in the car the whole time, but okay.
Sure, okay, he can make that
Dimitri.
assumption.
So the headmistress is really surprised by that, but she basically is like, well, that doesn't take away from the fact that Rose is headstrong and dangerous and wild. And Dimitri's like, yeah, she's also insubordinate and vulgar, but the number of female Dhampir guardians is super low and we can't risk losing another one.
Why?
Apparently it's a thing.
Why do you need... first off, if you want more Dhampir guardians... You want to breed your own slaves, so to speak. Just mate with more Dhampir/humans, because apparently that's all it takes.
Yes, barely.
But why do you need a female Dhampir to guard a female Dhampir, or is it that they can only form a bond if the female Dhampir with a female Moroi?
I don't think it matters.
Then why does it matter?
I don't know, Sam. The movie does not tell you.
Okay, good, got it.
This movie is just a series of things that it does not explain.
Clearly.
So Victor agrees with this, and Lissa interrupts. She apologizes, for leaving the school, and she's all suddenly very contrite. And now you find out that apparently she has these compulsion powers, and she uses them on the headmistress to keep Rose at school.
So Lissa becomes contrite, but it's an act so you can use her compulsion powers to manipulate the mind of the headmistress.
Absolutely.
Is anyone in this movie redeemable?
No. Yeah, they're all fine.
Great.
Lissa's a little questionable here, especially at the beginning. To be fair, the headmistress is insane.
Yeah, no, that's good, what I'm saying.
So it works. She gets to stay. While walking around campus the next day, Rose has this flashback to Lissa trying out some magic before they left. And she, as you so rightly assumed, Sam, she's not able to pick an element because she's pretty good at all of the elements.
Yeah, of course she is. Because she's the special one who's not going to be confined into your pigeonholing lines, man. I'm going to break free from my house/city-state/other dystopia categorization.
District. That's the one you're
district.
missing.
There you go. Yeah. Whatever. I mean, it's in every young adult thing, like the one that doesn't fit into the society's predefined narrative, like The Giver or whatever.
Exactly. So she's pretty good at all of them, and apparently that's like a big deal. You're supposed to pick one, and so it's a big no-no not to be able to pick one.
Also, the Owl House, just put out there, it's just like that.
It's like, keep throwing out titles. So this is where you get your first introduction of Miss Carp. So Miss Carp
I thought she wasn't there anymore.
She's not. This is a flashback,
Oh,
Sam.
I don't remember the flashback. I can't keep track of this.
So Miss Carp walks up, and she is very, flighty. She's got, the hair that's kind of all askew and has crazy eyes and just clearly a little quirky and not quite there. And she stops them, and she tells it's daylight out, and so she's like, you're not supposed to be out here, Lissa. You need to go in and get some rest, because they sleep during the day. And then as she's walking away, she's like, you know what, I didn't pick a discipline either, and look how I turned out, I'm fine. And she's walks off, and they're like, yeah, that's not weird at all.
I thought it was super big deal to pick a discipline. Never mind.
It's not. It's not required, but it's 99.9% of people do it, or vampires do it.
Moroi, Danielle, please.
Sorry.
I can keep track of this.
Before they can go back inside, a blackbird, a raven, a crow, I don't know, Sam, I don't know my birds. A
corvid.
A very large blackbird flies into the statue. I think it's of St. Vladimir, but not specific. Flies into the statue that's right next to them and dies, basically. It falls to the ground. And
ominous.
Yes, and Lissa walks up to it. That's what basically Rose is like. Rose is like, oh, that's creepy. And Lissa's like, no, it's so sad. And she walks up to it and she heals it. She uses her powers.
Oh, she has magical healing powers too.
Yeah, so she heals it, but then she immediately passes out after she does it.
So you're saying to me that Moroi are basically blood-drinking wizards?
Yes, that's exactly what they are, Sam. At least this particular Moroi is.
No, I'm just saying in general, because the sunlight doesn't really bother them that much. They don't have any of the other, vampire weaknesses, garlic or being invited in or silver or whatever.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They have magic and they need to drink blood.
Yes.
Blood-drinking wizards. Got it.
Got it. So Miss Carp sees them. Rose looks up and she notices that Miss Carp's watching from this upstairs window. I don't know how Miss Carp got to the upstairs window that quickly, but she's there.
Magic, teleporter. I don't know.
That's what I wrote. Apparently magic. So the flashback stops and Rose looks back up at the window where she saw Miss Carp, but it's all boarded up now. Apparently, Lissa was pretty popular in school prior to them leaving, but now she's being teased. And it's mostly being headed by her ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend, who's just like extra terrible. And there seems to, at first glance, seems to be no reason behind it whatsoever. You do find out at one point that she used to date Lissa's brother, who was kind of a player, and she was mad that she was in the relationship and he was not into the relationship.
Yeah, but she takes out on Lissa, is what you're saying.
Yes, at this point you don't know that. She's just being like super awful. So she's clearly very threatened by the fact that the new girl's back. And she's really, really mean to her, which seems weird to me when you know that she's a potential future queen of your people.
Yeah,
I don't know why you would be mean to the queen.
And also, again, why are the princesses going to just the regular school?
Because everybody goes to that same school. It's a small, it's not a huge, I mean, it's a lot of people, but it's not a huge school.
There's not, you're saying the population of Moroi is not that big.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a normal-sized high school, like a, medium-sized high school,
but
I would assume, by what you see.
If all Moroi are going to the same school, then the entire population of Moroi is like the size of a small town.
Yeah. It's like Moroi and Dhampir. I mean, they're both going to the same school.
Okay, so there's like a total of 10,000 of these creatures in the world.
Sure, I have no idea what the number is, Sam, but it's a full-sized high school environment, it looks like.
Right, but my point is, if there was more of them, they would divide up to like, okay, you have to go to the Royal Academy, and you people go to the Pleb Academy.
No, there just seems to be this one school. Maybe there are more, I don't remember, but in this story, there's only one.
Okay, cool.
So Dhampir are doing their training, and it's like a PE class. They're like training how to fight and climb things and all that good stuff. And they do that while the Moroi go and do their magics training.
Sure.
And Rose is, of course, like way behind on her training. And as she's training, she has a sudden flash where she's pulled into Lissa's mind. So at this point, she doesn't seem to have any control over it.
This is still the flashback.
It's not a flashback. She's like pulled into Lissa's head, telepathy-wise. So
I don't know when we left the flashback thing, I'll be honest.
That was after she looked up at the window again and it was all boarded up.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Continue.
So all of this is present day, Sam. There's not that many flashbacks. I don't know why you're so confused about the flashback.
Well, I guess I'm just confused by everything else going on. It's just another thing. I can't keep track of what the difference between a Moroi, a Dhampir, and a Strigoi is.
Okay, well, let's just pretend the Moroi are the peace-loving vampires, the Dhampir are the warrior humans, and the Strigoi are the evil vampires.
Yeah, but that's not actually true. That's not actually true. None of that's true.
But it's, like, mostly true.
Okay.
If you just keep it in mind as, like, the warrior humans, the nice vampires, and the mean vampires, you're fine. So anyway, Lissa, she gets pulled into Lissa's mind all of a sudden. Her eyes go gold. You can always tell when it's happening.
Oh, that's convenient.
Yeah, she's just standing there and she's like having this flash into Lissa's head. And Lissa apparently is going into her secret place where she used to hang out a lot prior to them leaving the school, which is this little like a little rectory or something in the church that's on the grounds.
So they're church-going vampires.
They are very much church-going vampires, and I cannot tell you why, Sam.
That makes okay.
No sense. It's so perplexing.
See, every time you're like, oh, they're the good vampires, but they behave nothing like vampires. So they're basically they're basically blood drinking wizards who are like religious. So like, excuse me for being confused what the heck the rules are, Danielle.
I am not disparaging you from being confused about what the rules are. They're very confusing.
Okay. I'll do that vindication.
So apparently, yeah, there's even some more church scenes. There are actually several church scenes in this movie. So Lissa is interrupted by this moody, dark-haired boy, because that's what they all are, who basically tells her to, like, suck it up, Buttercup. You're like, stop being so morose. Your life's not that bad. And she gets really angry at him. She's like, excuse me, have you lost your entire family? Do you know how that feels?
Yes.
And then actually, yeah, she realizes that she's talking to this other Moroi whose name is Christian Ozera. And his parents transformed themselves into Strigoi. Like, they chose to become Strigoi.
Because they're like, we want to back the winning horse?
Because you get more power. Like, your brain becomes clearer. You're much more powerful.
Your brain becomes clearer?
Yeah, they get into it in a little bit, Sam. It's not very clear.
So the brain becomes clear. The movie does not.
Does not. Okay. But basically, it's like heightens all of your senses. You become super strong, super amazing, super powerful. And so, yes, apparently his parents chose to become Strigoi.
I mean, so would I. That sounds awesome.
So she apologizes when she realizes who she's talking to and asks if that's why he spends so much time at the church, because he's in her little rectory, and also she just has noticed that in the past, because apparently the Strigoi can't walk on holy ground.
Oh, great. I'm glad that's a thing.
Yeah, apparently it is a thing, at least in this movie.
Okay.
And he doesn't really answer that question. This is kind of where you realize that Rose can't tell Lissa anything when they're in their telepathy. It's just all one way, directional. And I think a ball hits her head or something, and Rose falls out of the little vision that she's having.
Lissa's connection, got it. Gotta check her Wi-Fi signal strength.
So now she starts training with Dimitri, who we get to see again in all his Dimitri glory.
So Dimitri is the guardian she starts crushing on.
Yeah, the hot guardian she starts crushing on.
How much older is he than her?
We get into this a little bit. I think he's early 20s. He might say it in there, but I can't quite remember if it was like 23 or something.
But also, put out there, teachers cannot date students.
We'll get into Sam. I promise this movie actually gets into that for once.
Okay, because it didn't get into anything else. I'm just saying, Danielle. My faith in this movie will address anything it sets up is minuscule at this point.
I absolutely agree on that, but somehow this is the one thing the movie actually decides that it's going to like vaguely address.
All right, I won't get it. Good. Okay, fine.
I'm not saying it doesn't push the boundaries and do some questionable things, but they do actually mention the age power differential.
Okay, good. I'm glad that's at least something this movie does take on. So
the only thing.
The only thing.
Which, if it's only going to choose one thing, I guess that's not a bad one to pick.
Fair enough.
So he basically just spends the whole time like flipping her over and over and telling her she's never going to get chosen to guard Lissa if she sucks. Because right now she totally sucks at guarding.
Fair. Harsh but fair.
I know. And Lissa then, this is where the movie kind of starts going from like scene to scene to scene to scene. It no longer, it's coherent, but it no longer has like a...
They're just like vignettes, no longer a story.
I'm sorry in advance because there's no other way to write this stuff down.
All right, Danielle. What we're going to do here is we're going to do a speed round. You're going to go through each scene. And I want to hear them one at a time. I'm not going to interrupt you. It's just going to be rapid fire scene from Danielle's mouth to your ears.
That's going to be super boring since it's like the rest of the movie.
Oh, I thought it was just like a brief interlude. Never mind.
Nope.
Oh, no.
It kind of ties in. I mean, the plot ties in, but it definitely is scene to scene. Very vignette-y. So Lissa now, she meets up with Lissa. Rose and Lissa meet up, and they go to what is called the Human Feeder Program.
Ew.
I know. Where apparently it's just this very stark hospital-looking space where all these humans are in nice, cozy armchairs, and they volunteer. They're just people who are obsessed with vampires that somehow know about them. Don't ask me how.
So they're like super fans who are like, oh, take my blood, please.
Yeah, she's like, did you ever wonder where those people you knew from high school who were super obsessed with Twilight fanfiction went to? Apparently it's here. They have a year of service that they agree to, and then as they leave, their memories get compulsed out of them, essentially, so they don't remember.
Get nothing out of this at all, not even memories.
I think it feels good, but no, they don't get the memories of
it. Feels good to give blood?
I think it feels good for a vampire to bite them.
Oh,
so
it's
talks
not
more
like
about it in the book. It does not talk about it here.
Donor room where they're like,
oh no, they get bitten.
They bite them. Okay, I thought they were actually like taking bags of blood, like blood donations.
No, I think they maybe do that a little bit too for like, in case they need some extra blood, but mostly it's biting.
All right, I guess. Who am I to judge? That still seems super exploitative.
Yeah, I mean, they signed up, to be fair.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
I get it, but still, people agree to all kinds of things they shouldn't.
That's certainly true. So she goes to feed, and then after that, she's obviously feeling a lot better, and super chatty girl appears. And her name is Natalie, and she's Victor's daughter. Victor was the guy with the Sandowski syndrome.
Right. So isn't she the next in line then?
Apparently not. I don't know how this works, Sam. Maybe she's one of many. It sounded like Lissa isn't necessarily the next in line. She's one of a option. So
why was it so important to get her back specifically? They had plenty of others.
I think if any of the royalty was out in public, they would have tried to get them back.
All right.
That's why they're all at the same supposedly safe school.
Yeah, the safe school that was just attacked and nobody talks about it.
It was way out on the boundaries of the school, not on the school.
Oh, yes. What happens on the border gate stays in the border gate.
Apparently. Anyway, so Natalie is clearly a little bit of a geek. She's got glasses, curly hair. She's very pretty, but your standard, let's pretend that she's not pretty geek.
This movie is a remarkable bag of cliche.
I know, it's impressive. So they all meet up after the feeding and everything. They dress up and they go to church, Sam.
just what this weird vampire social structure caste system needs is some religious morality coming at you.
It does. And so during the service, the preacher mentions how St. Vladimir, he was a Moroi, and he had a Dhampir that he was attached to, like they were a pair. And her name was Shadow-Kissed Anna. Her name was Anna, but they call her Shadow-Kissed Anna.
Sure. Why not?
And it makes Rose remember this conversation with Miss Carp that she had before she left, where Miss Carp called Rose shadow-kissed. It doesn't seem like it's a super familiar term to everybody. And she was somehow connected to Lissa. And so that sparks her interest in trying to find out a little bit more about this term.
Shadow kissing?
Shadow kissing.
That's when you practice on your pillow's shadow?
Yes.
Got it.
Exactly. How did you know?
Well,
the next scene is just her making out with her pillow.
No, the shadow of her pillow, Danielle.
Shadow
please.
of her pillow.
You make your shadow kiss your pillow's shadow.
Okay.
It's like shadow puppets.
Oh
Look,
God,
Danielle,
stop.
It makes as much sense than anything else in this movie.
You'll get there. It'll make more sense.
I'm going to protest that immediately.
Anyway, the service is interrupted, Sam, by a small explosion in the back of the church room, and they all rush out to go see what it was. And it turns out to be the memorial wall for Lissa's mom and dad and brother. They had like their pictures on it, and it's been cracked in half, and someone has painted "Leave or Die" on it in red, probably blood. So these guards, like Dimitri and a couple of the other guardians, rush Lissa out of the room. And Rose, this is the weirdest scene. Rose had just been hitting on this guy earlier in the film.
Which one, Dimitri?
One of the Moroi, like cute Moroi that she kind of had.
Rose, super horned up.
Yeah, she's like angry, horny. So she decides.
I'm suddenly interested.
And so she decides that, like, now is the time to make out with this Moroi.
During the explosion where her best friends,
she, walks past him and she's like, I changed my mind, because he had hit on her earlier, and she's like, absolutely not. And she's like, I changed my mind. Let's meet at noon in the whatever room. So
shouldn't you be attending to your friend who just had a crime committed against her? Like, way more.
They don't show that part, Sam. And to be fair, it's later. This is at night, so that's going to be like the next day. I'm sure she did go and like hang out with Lissa.
Okay, great.
Anyway, so while they're trying to make out, he tries to bite her while they're making out.
Not okay. Not without consent.
She's like, no, please don't do that. And then they start making out again, and then he tries it again. And he's like, what's the problem? Like, you obviously did it with Lissa while you were out in the wild, outside. So why not me? Because, like, clearly you don't have a problem doing it with Moroi, which is, like, kind of not something they're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
And he tries again, and Dimitri ends up showing up, and he pulls him off of her.
So he gets very aggressive, I'm guessing.
Dimitri?
No, the teenage boy who doesn't take no for an answer.
Well, he just gets pulled off. Dimitri's much bigger than him.
Right, my point is why is Dimitri, like, was Rose not handling it? Or was, like, she under assault? Is this an assault thing? That's what I'm getting at.
It was definitely close to it, but she also, again, the books get way more into than the movies. She clearly has, like, I wouldn't say she was on the fence about it, but she was kind of like, this feels good, but I absolutely don't want you to do this. Mm-hmm. And so it was like that weird borderline, and then she was like, no, get off of me, and then Dimitri pulled him off. Like, okay. I think she probably could have handled it, but he just happened to come into the room because he was, I don't know. They actually don't explain why he was in the room.
Great. All right. Sure. Makes sense. Like everything else in this movie, airtight.
Anyway, so he pulls him off, but before he could be too disappointed in her, Rose has a flash to Lissa again. She's pulled into Lissa's head, who is walking very mysteriously towards an outside door for some reason. And when she opens it, Lissa sees a dead fox that's hanging up. It's just like hanging from a rope or something.
Yikes.
And Rose pulls herself out of the vision and is like, we've got to go find Lissa. Something's wrong. And so they all run to find her. So they run to the bedroom. They take the fox down, obviously. Lissa is crying and Rose is comforting her. And Lissa keeps talking about how it started again. And she tried to bring the fox back, but it was too late. And Dimitri overhears all this.
Uh-oh.
Because she's not supposed to have all these powers.
So the power she has, like healing powers, are atypical?
Atypical. Usually people have like an affinity for one of the elements over the other. They're not like good at all of them. She's good at all of them. She can heal. Most of them can't. Like it's like a...
She's like the uber vampire. Uber Moroi.
At this point, yeah. She's like a lot going, like stuff that she's not supposed... Healing's very, very unlikely and rare.
Got it.
So they're trying to keep that on the down low. And compulsion, too, is not something that a lot of them...
Well, who wants to be compelled?
To her degree. So she's just got like a variety of skills she's really not supposed to have. So they end up upping her guard detail outside, and Rose thanks Dimitri for not telling the headmistress about her making out with the Moroi, because she's not supposed to be doing that.
Of course.
And then she tells him, which was my favorite line in the whole thing, she's like, my 17-year-old silliness was a thing of the past. And he kind of like laughs, and he's like, it was an hour ago.
Also, she's still 17, and a comment like that prove that you are not past your 17-year-old silliness.
I know. And she's like, well, I'd like to be, I'd like to have it in the past. I need to protect Lissa, so you need to teach me more than just, laps. Like, I've got to actually learn how to fight, or I'm not going to be any help to her, because obviously people are after her.
Sure.
So in class the next day, the ex's girlfriend, the evil girlfriend.
Does she have a name, or is she just the ex's girlfriend?
She definitely has a name, and I cannot remember it.
All right. Let's call her, I don't know, what's an ex you want to name her after, Danielle?
I don't know. I called her evil girlfriend in all of my notes.
That works for me.
So I called her either ex's girlfriend or evil girlfriend. She writes a note in class saying that Lissa used Rose for blood, and the teacher reads it out loud in front of the class because she was counting on that, obviously.
Yeah, well, that's why teachers don't do that in real life.
I know. She was even like, he takes it from her and she's like, oh no, please don't read that in front of the class. That would be terrible. Like he does it anyway. Like he clearly is a moron.
Yeah. This whole school is just chock full of dum-dums.
Stupid. And the Moroi that she was making out with, the guy and his friend, are like, oh yeah, she's totally let us bite her too. Like we were making out with her yesterday and she let us bite her. And Christian gets really angry about this. Christian was the...
Yeah, I remember Christian. He's the moody boy.
The moody vampire. And he, I guess fire is his element, and he sets the guy on fire that says it.
So he just murders him. Got it.
He doesn't murder him. It's like fire that's not going to murder him. It's just like the guy starts freaking out, like stop, drop, roll kind of thing, and he's just laughing about it. He doesn't actually catch on fire. Fire just scares him.
He didn't do it right.
And that's kind of like the end of that scene. Class is dismissed, and she ends up...
So wait, a student catches another student on fire and there are just no consequences?
No. Christian gets sent to the principal's office, which apparently is a frequent thing for him. He's like, yeah, I know where it is, because the teacher tries to tell him.
One of those things, got it.
But somehow nobody else gets sent to the principal's office, which is bananas. Like,
no.
I think
nonsense.
Like at least 4 people in that room should have been sent to the principal's office.
If not more.
Yeah. Anyway, Lissa gets upset. She runs off. Class ends. And Rose ends up willing a vision of Lissa into her head. Like now she apparently has the power to just like think of Lissa and she can see into Lissa's head, which is creepy.
I don't like that.
I know. She's just like, come on, I need to see
I don't like it being random either, but...
So apparently Lissa's talking to Christian in their little like secret hideaway in the church. And Christian's like, she's mad at him for setting the kid on fire. And Christian's like, well, nothing else was going to like stop that conversation and be bigger than you taking blood from a Dhampir. Like I had to make it a big deal. Otherwise they'd still be talking about you. And then he says, now the fox killer will feel the heat. What does that mean?
What?
I don't know, Sam.
Does everyone here have, like, a weird brain disorder where they're just spouting out nonsense?
It's such a weird line. I was like, why does he care if you can set people on fire? Everybody knows you can do that.
But why is he the fox killer thing? Where's that come from?
Well, he's just trying to protect Lissa, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, how sweet and chivalrous and creepy.
Yes. At this point. So apparently there are these like rules about how you can and cannot use your magic powers, and they're not supposed to use them for harm. And Christian thinks that if they were all less peaceful, loving rainbows and unicorns, that the Strigoi wouldn't be picking them off. Like they'd be a real threat to the Strigoi, which I think is a valid point. Personally.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a magical powers, you're not using to defend you from your enemies that are slaughtering you, then that's kind of on you a little bit.
Yeah,
I appreciate conscientious objectors, but you also have to acknowledge that sometimes it doesn't work out.
No, not when you have a death-loving vampires working against you all the time.
Right. Like, I don't think conscious objectors would have stopped, the Nazis or Stalin or, Pol Pot.
Exactly.
Which is not to say that it's not anything wrong with that philosophy. It's just that, different skills for different things.
Exactly. And she's like, no, we're not supposed to do that. Like, that's not, we should be peace-loving. And he's like, dude, I know you're using compulsion, so you're already kind of on the fence.
That's also way fair, because compelling people for your own advantage is kind of way ickier than defending yourself with violence.
Oh, you're gonna love the next part then, Sam.
Also, does the plot for this movie start at some point?
Sort of. So anyway, she's having this vision, Rose, of those two talking, and Rose's vision's interrupted by this trumpeting music that signals that the queen of the Moroi, has appeared at the high school for funsies, I guess.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Her name's Queen Tatiana, and she's there in full regalia.
Are you kidding me? Tatiana? No. Is every name in this freaking movie like some super obvious reference?
Well, they're in someplace in Europe, probably.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh yes, Tatiana, and I will name my son Oberon. I'm so clever.
Okay, well, she's there in full regalia, and there's a throne up on the stage of the school, which, why not? And weirdly, what she does is she, chooses her visit to the school to be calling out Lissa for, quote-unquote, dead animals, blood games, and escapes to Oregon. That's where they went when they left the school.
So she's just there to,
say... be in the United States, then. Huh, sorry.
Well, glad we established the location, which is not Europe.
Because they drive from wherever they were to, I assume, unless they flew in a plane and didn't show us that part.
So she just came here to basically call out, not Rose,
Lissa. Yeah,
Lissa,
she just calls to, call her out. And I'm like, why? Does it...
You couldn't have sent a letter?
Well, and also, what does it do to call out a 17-year-old at high school? To the staff and the other students? Why? Why would you want to lessen the, unless she wants her own family to keep ruling?
Right. It seems like you're not going to accomplish much except for potentially alienating a teenager.
Well, and, it kind of... Because you don't know the reason behind what she's doing there, it makes it seem like she's dismissing royalty in general. That's, why would you not, as a royal, even if it's different families, why would you not stand behind each other to make it as powerful as possible?
Like I said, the power structures don't make any sense in this world.
It does not. And she's, calling her out for stuff beyond her control. She has no control over the fact that dead animals are being put in front of her.
How dare you allow animals to be poached on your lands?
It's very weird. So Lissa disappears. Rose and Natalie end up running over to Lissa's little apartment space, her dorm, but nobody's there. But there is blood on the wall that says, if you stay, beware.
And do any of the administrators care about these blood-scrawled threats? It's nah, she'll handle it.
Well, supposedly they upped her, security detail and everything.
Yeah, but they're, investigating?
That doesn't seem to suggest that they are.
This feels very, Harry Potter in the sense of, in the Chamber of Secrets, oh, there's blood on the walls. School should be fine. We'll just keep going.
Yeah, that's basically how this is going.
Yeah, no. Any responsible school would be all right, everyone, we are going to shut things down for a bit and investigate properly.
Right. To be fair, at this point, at least Rose and a couple of the other, Natalie, seem to think that it's just the evil girlfriend and her friends, messing with Lissa.
Okay, well, yes, because they're scrawling things in blood. Neato.
Yeah, well, they're just harassing her. They've done a couple of pranks, which I didn't really get into, but they've done a couple of,
Oh, you skipped the vampire prank war?
There's not, a lot going on. There was just, one where they rigged the water fountain to spray all over her, not super...
Okay,
they used the water power.
Why... You can't dangle for me the concept of a vampire prank war out of an 80s
It's not an interesting comedy, vampire prank war.
Yeah, no, I want that. Now, you put the idea in my head, Danielle. I want Animal House style 80s vampire prank war.
I mean, that would be great, but really the only thing you see is Lissa going to drink some water out of a water fountain, and one of the people uses their water element power to spray it all over her face, and they film it. And then they all laugh.
Great prank, guys. A+ prank. Prank masters.
It's pretty stupid. Anyway, but then all the blood stuff starts, so that's what they assume is going on.
Okay, yes, there's no difference between those two things. I'm saying these administrators suck.
Okay. But, you can get to the best part of the blood being on the wall, Sam, which is that Rose makes Natalie go lick it. She's she's a Moroi, so she makes her go lick the blood, and Natalie confirms it's fresh, that it's made from Moroi, and that there's more than one Moroi blood in there.
So, Natalie, she's just like, hey, you, go lick it. And she's like, all right. And she licks it. She's like, I can tell by the taste that it's Moroi blood, and it's the mingled blood of several Moroi.
Yes. And then my favorite part, which I actually didn't even write down because I wasn't going to tell you, but Rose says, can you tell if it's royal? And Natalie is like, no.
Oh, that's the bridge too far. Excuse me.
Made me laugh. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Is that where the line's drawn?
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, who needs CSI when you have a tongue?
Natalie's tongue.
Sounds like a band. That'd be a great band name.
Like band.
Hi, we're Natalie's Tongue. We're here to play the Moroi best hits.
Anyway, Lissa shows up as they are figuring all this out, and she's super angry about, like, everything. To be fair, I mean, I would be angry as well.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
And she's decided, like, I'm over this. People are treating me terribly. This isn't fair. And so she wants to use her compulsion to pull people back onto her side.
Fair. I mean, teenager logic.
She announces it to the room, and Rose is like, you're not supposed to talk about that in front of Natalie. And she's like, I already told her about it. It was too tiring trying to keep it from her. And I'm like, you've been back to school for, like, 3 weeks.
Teenagers, man.
You can keep your secret from Natalie.
Yeah, I mean, was that like prying at you? Like, hey, Lissa, compel me. Can you compel me, Lissa? Compel me.
And she hasn't even been using it, so I don't know why it was that hard to, like, not talk about it.
Yeah, no, that's nonsense. Apparently, how does, what's his face? Christian know? Did you just tell him?
He just, like, obsessively watches her, I think.
Oh, that's awful.
That's my best guess. So Rose ends up going back to training with Dimitri, who's amped it up per her request. And he reminds her during training that the Strigoi are, this is mostly for the audience, that Strigoi are made because what happens is a Moroi has to kill during feeding, and that will turn them into a Strigoi.
So if a Moroi kills a person they're eating, the person they are eating turns into a Strigoi, or the Moroi turns into a Strigoi?
The Moroi turns into a Strigoi, or I think they can also be turned by a Strigoi.
So if you eat too hard and kill a human, for instance, you become a Strigoi.
Absolutely.
What?
I think the idea is that, like, you've now murdered something. It's no longer like a peaceful feeding. You've killed this thing, and
but you get like magic. You get more powerful for doing so.
Yes, but you're like now evil. You have no empathy, no like life.
Where's our vampire biologist to explain how any of this works?
So that's the concept, Sam, is that you lose your empathy and
your
actual
moral center,
humanism.
your humanity.
If you
so
kill
you become super powerful, but lose your humanity.
Exactly.
But why? I mean, okay, I get that, and the Moroi are peace loving, but why are they peace loving to a Strigoi? Like, does killing a Strigoi turn you into a Strigoi?
I don't think so. You wouldn't
then
eat from Strigoi. You can murder. You can murder. You just can't, like, murder them while you're eating them.
That's a big loophole. That means you could, like, eat somebody to the point where they're almost dead and then, like, stop and stab them in the heart. Like, nope, not a Strigoi.
Probably, but...
That's a massive
that's not
loophole.
In the movie, at least.
Imagine that in court, like, Your Honor, yes, I murdered them, but I had already stopped feeding at that point, so clearly innocent.
I don't know how it all works, Sam. It's just one of the ways that maybe it's intent. I don't know. Like, maybe there has to be some intent behind it. I'm not sure. I don't remember. It's not mentioned in the movie. Anyway, his point is that at some point you may be fighting against a vampire and another person that you know. And, like, are you going to hesitate if you know the person?
Because they've been turned?
Right.
This is like the old zombie apocalypse. I can't kill them. That was my mother. It's not your mother anymore.
Yeah, you just have to kill him.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd have that problem.
I'm just saying,
if they're turned. Like, it's too late.
Well, I know what side of the zombie apocalypse I'm going to be on when it happens. I'm going to stay away from Danielle.
You want to be on my side because I will definitely kill the people
I will
say
as far away from you as possible. Could be like, did you sneeze? You're going to be a zombie. Blam.
I didn't mean like that. I meant if they were already turned or they're already Strigoi, then you might as well kill them. They're not coming back from that.
Yes. Because nothing ever finds a cure or anything in a zombie movie.
Okay, well, in this case, you're not going to, like, keep your zombie parent alive or something because maybe they're going to have a cure at some point.
Clearly, you didn't see Shaun of the Dead where he kept his best friend chained up in the backyard. Yeah. So,
I mean, that would be ideal, but also if my, like, mom was trying to kill me, I would just, I'm sorry, Mom.
This is all Danielle. I'm staying out of this one.
She'd forgive me. She would totally forgive me for killing her as a zombie.
All right. Well, there it is, folks.
All right. Next scene. Rose, it has a flash to Lissa's brain again, and Lissa is going around and she's compulsing everybody around her basically not to care about the blood or the queen thing. It clearly has an effect on her physically. It's very draining to her, and it makes her itch for some bizarre reason.
Ants.
Yes.
Ants all over her body. Got it.
So she's using it more and more, and she's like basically turning the whole school on her side again, so she's becoming more popular. And then during all this, Rose decides that she wants to break into the headmistress's office to steal that file on Carp that she saw while she was there.
How evil is the headmistress on a scale of 1 to 10?
It's very unclear. I'm going to say like 2, but her stupidity is like an 8.
Got it.
So she does manage to break into the headmistress's office and steal Carp's file, and there's a DVD in there.
Sure.
I know, why not? So she puts it into her computer, she's watching it, and it's Miss Carp talking to the camera. And this is clearly some kind of like, I'm going to say Moroi government sanctioned thing. Like they've clearly at this point...
It's like interrogation.
Yeah, like trapped her, and she's talking to the camera, and it says like day 1, day 2, day 3, you know. And she keeps talking about how they're coming after her and how she should have gone with Lissa and Rose, and it stops after day 5. There's no resolution. Like nothing happens after day 5.
Ooh. Okay.
Creepy. So, meanwhile, Lissa's showing off some magic at a party. Like I said, it's making her super weird and jittery. She's also, at this point, stolen back her ex-boyfriend from the evil girlfriend.
Using compulsion.
Yes, and made everybody not like the evil girlfriend. And Rose is starting to, like, disagree, obviously, with this whole concept. She's like, you don't even like the guy. He's boring. What the heck? And so, she's obviously against it, and Lissa's just like, it's fine. Like, you know, this is important for us to not be watched all the time by everybody.
Sure.
And Rose leaves the party, kind of storms out of there, and Lissa and Natalie end up following her out, trying to get her to come back. And they're interrupted by these howling dogs in the background.
I swear, if there are werewolves in this movie, I would be so upset.
There are not, as of yet, but these are called Psi Hounds. You don't know anything more about them, but that's what they're called.
Close enough. Pack it in. I like how this movie / book is poking fun at Twilight, but that's really, it's about the same level.
So the Psi Hounds are like clearly in the background, I don't know, on the property, who knows, but they run across the school grounds, and as they're running, they seem to get farther and farther away from them, and they run across the quad area, and they find Lissa's backpack. It's just like randomly sitting in the middle of this square, and she's like, why is my backpack over there? So she runs over there and grabs it, and inside of it is, I'm sorry everybody, it's a dead cat from the one from earlier that they had taken from the apartment complex. And Lissa tries to heal it, but she is not able to, and she passes out.
From the exertion.
She's been used too much magic. And when she passes out, all these cuts appear along her arm. Like her skin just kind of opens up.
All right. So far, so weird. Typical. I don't know, Danielle. Like, I still don't see where the plot of this movie is.
There's not really a plot. It's all a lie. So Rose, at this time, has a flashback to Miss Carp, warning her about being shadow kissed and Lissa using magic too much. And if she uses it too much, they'll come for Lissa like they did for her. And then she has a sudden memory of Miss Carp using compulsion to make her and Lissa leave the academy. So she didn't remember this before, because at the end of it, Miss Carp is like, you're only going to remember that I compulsed you. It's like a temporary thing. You're only going to remember this when you need to know this.
That's very convenient that you can just say, hey, magic spell. When they need to know this, they'll know. Like, how do you know what need is? Like, who knows? That's very wishy-washy.
I agreed with that when I heard it. I was like, what kind of magic is that?
Yeah, right? It'll happen when it should happen. Yes.
So then I guess Rose decides to convene everybody. So she gets like Dimitri and Victor and the headmistress, like all the important people together in one room. And she's complaining, basically. She's like, I need to know what Miss Carp did. I want to see the remaining footage. Like it ends on day 5. There has to be more than that. I want to see day 6 of the footage. And for some bizarre reason, the group's like, yeah, we've held it from her long enough. We really should show her.
What? And they have the authority to do that?
They do, apparently, because everything is run through this school. Apparently, because you'll see later, there's just like an entire like government complex beneath this school.
What? No.
I don't know. It's very perplexing.
So is this, all right, let's just get to it. I'm sorry.
So Dimitri, for whatever reason, he wasn't even there when all this happened, but he knows about it. So he takes her down to a secret underground vault where because why not? Where they keep all of their prisoners. And she ends up seeing the remaining footage of Miss Carp. What happens on day 6 is Miss Carp ends up killing a man while feeding on him.
And turns into a Strigoi.
And turns into a Strigoi. And according to Dimitri, the undeclared, meaning the people who can't choose a concentration, have a lot of confusion in their brains, and it just tends to get worse if they aren't able to control it. And it ends up being easier for them to become Strigoi because those are emotionless, clear-headed creatures. And so it's been a real threat that Lissa might choose that path, which is one of the reasons they've...
He is saying that the undeclared, quote-unquote, because, yes, dystopian term for people who are different, they are always so confused in their brains that they seek clarity and they're like, oh, I should become Strigoi so I will no longer be so confused in my brain hole.
Yes. Like, it becomes a desire for them to be able to focus. I don't know what they focus for, Sam. I don't know. That's just what he says. But apparently
sure.
It's a thing.
Fine.
But apparently during this kerfuffle, Miss Carp managed to escape the building.
So Strigoi Miss Carp is out there and about, causing havoc.
Exactly. So upstairs, Lissa is compulsing the group of people, being like, Rose is crazy. I don't even know, I don't know what she's talking about. She shows them her arms. She's like, I don't have any cuts on my arms. I definitely didn't try to heal anything. And Rose is out, she left the building. And she ends up enlisting Christian to find some information on St. Vladimir and shadow-kissed Anna. So she's trying to find more information. And she thought Christian might know where that is because he lurks through all of the church buildings and old libraries and stuff.
Why not? I'm sure you could go to him and not say the librarian or something.
Well, they don't really have a librarian. They just have a church filled with old ancient
books. Well, no wonder this school sucks.
Maybe they do. I don't know. They never go into the library.
I would not pay good money to send my kid to this vampire school.
So while they're researching, they realize that St. Vladimir had the same skill level as Lissa. It's called spirit, quote unquote.
Do they have a numerical value? We have tested it. You have 16 spirit level.
No, it's just you either have the ability for whatever, air, earth, fire, etc., or you...
Earth, Wind, and Fire, please, Danielle. It's a great band.
And water. Or you have the ability over, all of them and other stuff, and that's a spirit element.
Okay, cool.
So she has the same abilities that St. Vladimir had, is what they find out while they're researching.
So St. Vladimir was also the same as Miss Carp and Lissa.
Exactly. And he had a Dhampir on his side named Anna, who was shadow-kissed, whatever that means. They haven't quite figured that part out yet. So they part the next morning. They researched all night. So when they come out, Lissa finds Rose, and they end up getting into a fight. And this is the reoccurring thing about Lissa using her compulsion powers and all of that. And they're trying to explain that they found all this information out about spirit, and etc. But they get into this big argument. And as they're fighting, this random hole appears in the ground, and Rose steps in it and breaks her foot.
Oh, did Lissa do that to her?
No, at this point it's unclear as to why a sudden random hole developed in the ground out of nowhere.
Is anything clear in this movie ever?
Yeah, that actually is explained later on, because I also was like, what the heck? So Rose awakens in the hospital, but she's totally cured, obviously, because Lissa ended up healing her, and they end up making up.
Aww.
I know. That's good. So the headmistress comes in with a bunch of other people. She wants to send them to a bunker to be safe until the teachers from Romania come and are able to help with Lissa's gifts, because they've obviously filled in everybody about what happened. Apparently there are teachers that can help her with that.
And they didn't think about this until now?
No, they didn't realize that's what she had, because they didn't know all the details.
All right, well, that seems like a reasonable decision.
And so Victor, who's looking particularly ill, and Natalie try to convince them to go to the dance that evening. There's a school dance, and then go to the bunker after that.
Why?
I know. That's what I said, because it's super safe.
Just put them in the bunker, wait for the magic specialist to come, and you'll be good to go.
Crazy to me. And Natalie presses so hard. She's like, I can't go by myself. I'm such a dork. Nobody's
then
I don't want to go.
It's a dance. Who cares?
Well, it's apparently everything in high school. And Victor's really pushing it too. He's like, well, it's fine. We'll keep them safe. Let them enjoy this one night before they have to stay, for a few days in this bunker. And Natalie...
They're in on it.
Natalie got in on what?
I don't know. Whatever shenanigans is going on there, killing foxes and crows or whatever.
Well, at this point, everybody still thinks it's the evil girlfriend, which it may
And they're
well
not
be.
I don't know, suspending her or interrogating her for murdering animals?
Nobody's doing anything, Sam. Ugh. That night, Natalie was given a necklace by Victor to give to Rose.
Definitely evil. Got it.
To thank her for all the help with Lissa. It's this necklace that she was looking at when they were looking at dresses earlier. And the dance, so they go to the dance that night. The dance theme is Thicker Than Water.
I hate it. Absolutely hate it.
It was so funny. And they did this hilarious, like, slow motion walk in, like, the group of girls, and these mean girl vampires turn and look at them and hiss.
I mean, if the movie was more of this and less of, like, nonsense mysticism, I'd be on board.
It's so funny. And Dimitri, like, sees her across the room and is clearly, like, into Rose's new dress, but doesn't say anything because, you know, that's not appropriate.
It's not.
And Christian immediately starts dancing with Lissa. Then they start making out. So they're apparently a couple now.
Sure.
Lots of things happen at this dance. So right after all this happens, the evil girlfriend comes up and she's really upset because her boyfriend's been taken away from her. Like, and wasn't even kept by the person who, like, took him. Yeah. like, dismissed him. She's in trouble. Like, nobody likes her anymore. They all like Lissa. Like, she's extremely pissed off about all this. And so she admits that she did a bunch of the, like, more minor stuff, but when they accuse her of the cat and the fox thing, she's like, I would never hurt the cat, like, or the fox, but she's like, I gave the cat treats, like, I love that cat. And they realize that it's, like, two separate things that have converged, like, the evil girlfriend was doing a lot of the minor stuff.
How do you never realize that two things can happen at the same time?
I don't know, but apparently they didn't think about it, and now they're really worried because obviously something bigger is out there for Lissa. So Lissa runs off during this confrontation just because she was, like, super uncomfortable with it, and it was
the whole thing about, we'll keep her safe at the dance, and they'll put her in the bunker, and like, no, just run off.
No, she doesn't even really have guards there. It's wild. And then Christian tails her, and they end up getting attacked and blindfolded, and Rose sees this through a vision. So Rose runs to the headmistress to tell her that Lissa's in trouble, and I do not understand this. I want to put this out here. I don't understand what's going on in the scene. So Rose goes to the headmistress to tell her Lissa's in trouble. The headmistress seems unsurprised by that. She pulls out a syringe to, like, clearly, like, knock Rose out or something. Like, she pulls it out to use on Rose. And Rose does this fabulous move where she, like, twists her arm around and makes the headmistress inject herself in the butt, which was very funny.
What?
I don't know, Sam. And it doesn't make, I thought it'd make sense later. Like, I was like, okay, she's clearly in on it. And like this will come up later when they resolve.
No, she's just trying to sedate Rose for no reason.
And it's, like, very confusing because you'll see in a little bit what happens. And I was like, I don't understand that scene now. So she injects herself in the butt, which is very funny. She passes out. She's like, I could have been a model. She passes out. Anyway,
I'm glad that amused you.
It was a really funny scene. Rose ends up going to Dimitri instead, so she runs over to his room. But once she gets there, they kind of immediately start, like, flirting and then start making out.
There's no time for this. A, not appropriate. B, you gotta save your friend.
Sam, wait, because I had the same reaction and I was like, oh, wait, I forgot what was going on in this scene. So as they're making out, they, like, get to the bed and he looks down at her necklace and he realizes that it's spelled. And
I called that.
Yeah, so he pulls the necklace off and, like, throws it in the fire or whatever he does, and the charm is broken. It's a love charm, and he, like, steps back from her and is like, we cannot do this because, like, I'm older than you and it's weird and power dynamics and, like, I'm your teacher and
good
like,
for you, Dimitri.
Absolutely not. Like, this is like, we're gonna forget this ever happened.
Good.
Yeah, the one nod to validity.
Good sense.
So they get dressed. They're like, yep, let's pretend this never happened. And they run out to find Lissa. And she's having her visions. So she's, like, following her via the visions. And Christian ends up stowing away in their car. In the back seat, he climbs in.
So the evil people's plan was to distract Rose by getting her all horned up with someone using a love charm?
Yes.
Just a shotgun approach, I guess. Not very precise.
Well, they had some info that she was into Dimitri, so I think they were hoping that would somehow play out during the dance.
Fair enough. All right.
It was, like, pure luck that she
worked,
happened
so
to go.
who am I to question their bulletproof plan?
I think it was mostly just so that fans could see them kiss in this book.
Yeah, probably.
So Christian stows away in the car, and now apparently Rose seems to have the ability to get into Lissa's brain whenever she wants to. Like,
Just flip a switch.
It's crazy. And she realizes, like, the blindfold's finally lifted from Lissa's eyes, and she's able to see, and it turns out that it's Victor who kidnapped her.
Oh, I'm so surprised. I'm not.
Shocked. Do you know why Victor kidnapped her, Sam?
To heal his disease?
How did you know?
Because I've seen movies before.
So he's the one that's been testing her with the animals, and he also created the hole in the ground to break Rose's leg because he was hoping that Lissa might try and heal it.
Got it.
Yeah.
It all makes sense now, except for the breaking of the memorial wall. That doesn't make sense.
I think that was the
evil girlfriend?
Evil girlfriend.
Then why isn't she expelled or something? Because that's definitely not okay.
I agree. So Lissa's like, well, you forgot about Rose. Like, she's definitely coming after me. And they're like, yeah, she's definitely not, because she's completely horned up and hanging out with Dimitri in a bedroom somewhere.
She's a teenager. It was a fair guess.
It was a fair guess. There's a 50-50 chance that was correct. He's like, because this is a chronic condition, basically what has to happen is you have to continually heal me, so I need you to give up your life for mine.
She has to be like a nursemaid with him every day, healing him all the time.
Basically. Until she's dead, essentially, I assume, if she dies.
Well, can't they feed her? Keep her alive? Like,
well, yeah, I think that's the plan, is like to keep her alive as long as humanly possible, as long as Moroi possible, to keep her, like,
I mean, that makes sense, I suppose.
Because he says that he's like next in line to rule, and he's more important than she will ever be. The Moroi need a strong leader, and that's him.
All right, got it.
So she's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Like, you can't make me heal you. And he ends up bringing in this blind Moroi, who is a air master, like he's able to do the air stuff.
He's an airbender. Got it.
I was trying not to use that term.
I was waiting for the right moment. I knew it was going to come.
And he ends up using air, like, it's actually kind of a cool thing, is like he like sucks the air out of her to torture her. Like,
oh, so like she can't breathe. Got it.
She can't breathe. And so he does it, and she can't use her compulsion on him. That's why he's blind. Because
so you can only use compulsion on people who can see you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Which is what they just, like, who knew prior to this?
Yeah, exactly. That's made up.
And so he only goes through 2 rounds, and she's like, I'll do it. I was like, that was only
cracks
2
like
rounds
an egg.
of suffocation. And so she gives up, she heals him, he becomes younger, and he's like, oh, look how handsome I am. I'm so strong and virile, and I'm the man. And they show up at the house. This is when Rose and Dimitri end up making it there, and Christian. And Dimitri is like, wait in the car. You know what happened the last time you were around on the Strigoi, and like, bad people, you're not that strong yet. Like, don't get out of the car. So he gets out.
At this point, there are no Strigoi involved.
No, but she's still like 17-year-old novice. So like, she's not...
Okay, sure,
she's
that's
not
fair.
Great. And he's not. So he gets out, he starts like kicking butt. And obviously she does not wait in the car.
Yeah.
And her and Christian go into the house. They're going to try and find Lissa while he's trying to kick everybody's butt and get Victor. So they do find the room that Lissa's in, but they can't get it open. And she's like, Christian, use your fire magic, like break down the door. And he's like, I've never used it outside of school before. And he can't get it to like
who cares?
work. I know. He's got like fire anxiety. He can't do it.
Ugh, teenagers.
But it's okay because Lissa manages to compulse the guard and she climbs out the window. But as soon as she lands on the ground and she's like, goes down the drain pipe, she's met by the Psi dog things.
Sure, I forgot those were a thing.
The Psi Hounds.
Right, sure. Hounds of the Baskerville, got it.
But they're just these really poorly made CG dogs.
Aw, puppers.
I know. And so she's being chased by them. And Dimitri is trying to get into the room with Victor, killing other guards left and right. And the guard that's left inside with Victor is apparently like the second best guard, the one right after Dimitri.
Sure.
And he's been bought by Victor. And
no.
I know. He has a great line. He says, they say Dimitri is a god, but I am an atheist with a big gun.
You know what? Good for him for having some confidence.
I know. So they break down the door, but the first person in the door isn't Dimitri, it's some other guard. And so he ends up shooting that one instead. And then Dimitri dodges a literal bullet.
I guess he is a god.
It was amazing. And rushes him. And meanwhile, Rose and Christian are chasing after Lissa. They, realize she's escaped out the back. And Rose rushes Victor's getaway helicopter pilot, because there's this big helicopter that descends from the sky to clearly pick up Lissa and Victor. And so Rose jumps on the helicopter pilot, like trying to beat him up. And she's like, yeah, I could use some help here, Christian. But he can only light this like tiny little flame. She's like, are you serious?
So useless.
And as all this is going on, they do manage to get the pilot down, but Victor shows up and he shoots towards them and ends up hitting Christian. I know, Christian collapses to the ground. And Rose jumps in front of Lissa, trying to block her from Victor. And then Lissa's like, you're trying to pull her out of the way. Like, no, let me stand in there. He's like, I really don't want to hit Lissa with my bullets because obviously she's my savior.
Yeah.
And so Lissa and Rose get into an argument about who's going to face Victor. So they keep like standing in front of each other, which was pretty funny. She's like, well, he's not going to shoot me. Rose, stand behind me.
Yeah, I mean, that makes the most sense.
And in the interim, while he's just like rolling his eyes at them, trying to figure out how he's going to shoot Rose, and he ends up getting taken down by Dimitri in the interim. Dimitri jumps on him.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, so he's being handcuffed, and you think it's over, but then Victor just kind of calmly looks up at him, and he's like, you know what I like about Psi Hounds? They're wonderful at tracking and even better at killing. And he yells, attack! And they all rush forward. Why
were the Psi Hounds involved from the start?
Because they were chasing Lissa, remember?
What is a Psi Hound? What makes it Psi?
I don't know. They're giant dogs with glowy eyes.
Got it. All right.
And there's a line earlier that's like, they'll chase her and they'll, take her exactly where I want them to, but they won't kill her unless I tell them to. So he yells attack, they rush forward. But in the nick of time, Christian uses his fire magic and explodes them into torched balls of fire.
There's a metaphor here for a young man discovering his sexuality.
Sure, that's it. So Lissa's now out of magic, doing the whole healing thing. So Rose ends up offering herself for blood, and everybody's kind of aghast. She's like, well, what else we're supposed to do? Lissa needs to get out of here.
Yeah.
And she ends up healing Christian because she couldn't do that without that. And Christian was dying on the ground due to the whole being shot thing.
That'll do it.
And that's the scene ends, and they are back with the headmistress.
Oh, that useless person.
Yeah. And this is where I wrote, is she evil? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
I mean, is incompetence really that much different than evil?
Because she was gonna stab Rose with a
syringe.
Vial of something, but she's now just still the headmistress, and they're reporting back to her, and it's no big deal that she tried to knock out Rose. It's so perplexing. They don't mention it at all. They never explain it. I don't know if I just missed it somehow or what, but I did not understand how she wasn't in trouble.
Or the student who broke the memorial wall and covered in blood.
Well, it doesn't even matter now.
It does.
So it's all being cleared up. They're figuring stuff out. And the headmistress lets Rose know that she doesn't approve. But if Rose wants to, Victor has requested a moment of her time. And Rose is like, yeah, I don't really want to talk to Victor. And
good.
Yeah. But the headmistress goes, he said it was something about being shadow kissed. He said you'd know more about that. So of course, she ends up going to talk to Victor. And he tells her, I don't know why he decides to share this information, but he tells her at the accident, the car accident in the past, she was dead, but Lissa saved her. Lissa used her healing powers on her. And so she's marked by death. And that's what it means by being shadow kissed.
To be healed?
To become back from death.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's the same thing that happened to Anna, assumedly with St. Vladimir at some point, is that he brought her back from death.
Okay.
And so she's marked by death. And so that gives her a little play into future stories, obviously.
But it has no relevance for this story.
Not particularly.
Great. Glad we spent a lot of time looking into that.
Well, it's important to the story as it is here. So, and also just FYI that love charm that she was given on her necklace only works if the person's interested in her to begin with. So, there's that.
Doesn't make it any better, and Dimitri is right. Stay away.
Well, you'll like the end of this, Sam. So in the background, as they're talking and he's explaining all this, you kind of see a couple of the guards drop. They just disappear from the scene. And one by one, like little dominoes, they start to disappear. And surprise! It's Natalie!
Did I say she was evil from the beginning? Did I say something about her being evil? I don't remember.
She wasn't evil. I guess
everyone was evil
then. But Victor has talked her into becoming a Strigoi. And she says...
Is Victor a Strigoi? I don't get it.
Victor is a Moroi, but he talked his daughter into becoming a Strigoi so that she would be, invincible.
But I thought they lost their humanity.
They did. She's evil.
But they still have, complete control over themselves?
Sort of. She says a super creepy line, which is, I do anything for my daddy.
Don't like that. Do not approve.
She made me laugh, but it was also very creepy.
But also, with no moral compass, why does she care about her father? Why would she even listen to him?
I cannot tell you that, Sam. I don't know, like, their full emotional depth. But in this case, at one point, I think it's Rose who asks him, like, aren't you concerned that as a Strigoi now, she's gonna, like, kill you?
Yeah.
And he's like, don't be ridiculous. But he quickly, like, sneaks out to go, leave the building as quickly as possible. So I think it definitely is weighing on his mind that she could easily turn on him.
And now they know she's a Strigoi, so unless they kill Rose, the cover's blown.
Well, she just turned into a Strigoi, clearly.
So are they all just leaving? She's not going to stay at the school?
So they're still stuck they're like underground where Victor was being kept in the security thing. And so he's released, Victor's released, Natalie lets him go, and they end up getting into a fight, Rose and the Strigoi. And obviously Natalie's kind of winning the first half of this fight because she's much stronger than Rose is.
Because every fight scene with the hero in the climax has them losing first and then rallying with some like big power friendship thing, coming back and winning.
Right. So she does almost get her, but then she hesitates because it's Natalie. Playing back to what happened earlier where he's like, if you're fighting against somebody you know, are you going to hesitate before killing them? If Danielle had
been fighting her mom in that scene, she would have killed her no problem.
But alas, this is Rose trying to kill Natalie. So Dimitri shows up downstairs and he ends up meeting Victor as he's trying to escape in the elevator. Like the elevator doors open and Dimitri's inside.
Good.
And Victor's like, oh crap. And this random rock falls from the ceiling. Like I don't know why. And Dimitri ends up kicking it into his head and he like passes out and falls over.
So Dimitri just kicks a rock that fell from the ceiling into Victor's head, knocking him out.
Yep.
Cool.
And then he joins Rose in battling Natalie, and Rose manages to basically tie her against a grate thing or a cell, and he ends up killing her.
Good.
So she lived a very short life as a Strigoi.
That was worth it.
Yeah, and she has a whole speech about, I was, such a dork and a geek, and now I'm super strong, and blah, blah, blah. That's why she turned, and I'd do anything for my daddy, and then she dies within 20 minutes of becoming a Strigoi.
She was better as a not Strigoi.
Yes, of course. All right. Then you cut, this is the final finale bit, Sam.
Oh, sure.
So we cut to some future date. Who knows? It's obviously after that everybody's cleaned up. They are in one of the little rectory areas of the church. There's a ton of books around them. They've found a bunch of books about the spirit, quote unquote. And they're feeling super optimistic about Lissa's future because one of the reasons St. Vladimir was able to not become a Strigoi was that he had Anna by his side.
Oh, okay.
So they're thinking Rose and Lissa stand a good
stabilizing
chance.
Force. Yeah.
Exactly. And so they're feeling pretty optimistic. But alas, another trumpet sounds and the queen has returned.
Sure. Why not? Bring the queen back.
And they do a little announcement in front of the whole school. And she says, once again, this grotesque maelstrom of indecency seems to be centered on one individual. I don't know what her problem is.
Victor, right? Victor?
No, Lissa.
Oh, somehow.
Lissa actually interrupts the queen. She's like, thank you for allowing me to clear the air. And she tells the entire room of people that she's declared her specialty. I guess they all needed to know. And that it's spirit. It's this rare thing that St. Vladimir had. And by the way, her boyfriend is Christian Azera, and they can all suck it. And his parents were Strigoi. Deal with it. And then the queen tries to interrupt her, and Lissa just hushes her. And she's like, not now, dear. And the queen just lets her keep talking, which seems very unlikely.
No, she would shut that down.
But she manages to give an inspirational speech to the room about how there shouldn't be bad blood, and they need to stop bullying and be kind to one another and work against a Strigoi, and everybody cheers.
Oh, what a shoehorned in message.
Good, Lissa. Woo! And then it ends with Rose meeting up with Dimitri outside, and she's confronting him about his feelings for her. I learned that this spell only works if you like me. And he admits to her that he does like her, but his position and the age difference and the fact that if he loves her and is protecting somebody else, that's going to be an issue because he won't protect that other person, he'll protect her. So
right.
he can't be with her. And they mutually, nicely part ways and have a little moment. And the scene pulls out and you see the caves that are kind of in the hills surrounding the school. And it shows this obviously evil Strigoi asking a obviously evil Miss Carp when quote unquote. And she's like, soon! And then dramatically you see hundreds of Strigoi behind them in the caves, like frothing at the mouth, screaming and ready for action, assumedly to attack. And that's the end of the movie. The end.
That was a movie, I suppose. I'm glad that scene of all those Strigoi murdering people when they first arrived at the school had nothing to do with anything.
Did not. I assume that would be in Vampire Academy too.
Quick question. Why was Victor such an idiot? Because it seemed like he could have said, hey, you have healing powers. You want to just come by once a week and heal me a little bit?
Yeah, nope.
That seemed like it would have worked. She healed him, and did he stay relatively young until the end of the movie?
Yeah, till he died. Well, till he got knocked out.
Yeah, so it seems like the healing wasn't like you have to be there 24/7.
I can't tell you, Sam. I don't know if it had to be every day or every week or what.
But even so, it seemed like something he could have arranged by acting like, hey, you're my niece. Would you be willing to help me out once a week or, a few times a week?
Right, and it seemed to drain her, but not for any, she got one thing of blood and was able to heal again. So
yeah, we could go get a snack at the blood couch place and we're good.
Yeah, I don't know, Sam. I think, he clearly had a good relationship with Lissa. I agree that Lissa would have been like, yeah, of course I'll, give up my powers a day of the week to heal you.
Yeah, that's with the obvious solution, but no, I gotta kidnap you and, make it a whole thing.
Yep. No, he's just evil, Sam. He clearly just didn't think about asking her.
All right. Well, I asked a lot of questions, Danielle. I got very few answers.
I'm sorry.
None of this makes sense. It feels very paint by numbers in terms of oh yeah, you have these categories within categories of young adults who don't fit in, are just special and are breaking out. So it felt very much like every other book, but it had somehow so much more lore it was trying to cram into it than even most YA fiction that it felt top heavy.
I think the books obviously have a lot more time and space to
spread it out.
Yeah, and the movie decided we're going to put in as much as humanly possible. And I really wish the movie had just been more edited.
Streamlined. If the movie had focused just on the Moroi I've got to keep looking at the names because I don't know what the heck they are. Moroi Dhampir relationship, and the Strigoi could have been mentioned, but just sort of oh, that's our boogeyman kind of thing.
Yeah, I think they could have done a lot more with the Moroi Dhampir Strigoi. That's actually the interesting part of the story.
Yeah.
And I understand that's not necessarily a huge part of the first book and definitely plays more into the mini books after.
Yeah, but they're going to cram in a whole book's worth of backstory in the first, 45 minutes of this movie. It doesn't matter if they take it from what book.
Yeah. Agreed.
Anyway.
I don't disagree. I think this movie could have been done a lot better, which again is why I chose the movie over the book.
I don't know how the book handles it, but from this right now, I feel this caste system is unsustainable. This reproductive system is unsustainable.
I can tell you that I started reading this book about, I'd say 2 months ago, because I was like, maybe I could do this for the podcast, and I hadn't read it in a while. And I started reading the book, and I said, nope, this makes too much sense. I'm going to have to watch the movie again. I remember that making much less sense.
All right. Well, maybe it makes a lot more sense in the book, but all I have is the movie, Danielle, or rather your filtering of the movie. Which, I don't know if it makes it better or worse. That's not for me to decide. But I hope our listeners can appreciate my struggles with understanding, putting some semblance of logic to this piece. If you have any idea about how this is a sustainable life cycle of the Moroi breeding Dhampir, why do Moroi continue to exist without becoming like the weird incestuous royal bloodlines that produce rare genetic disorders that are terrible?
I like our sheer inability to get through a movie without a biologist.
We're back on track, Danielle.
Oh, gosh.
Starlight Parking, didn't need it. Made too little sense. This movie, needed again.
Well, it was a nice break for those 2 Starlight Parking episodes.
Okay, I'd say, are there biologists listening? Because we could use a full-time biologist on our podcast to explain all our dumb questions.
Biologist.
We have a segment of biology by blank. If you want to fill in that blank, you can contact us at bookretorts.com.
Or you can tweet us, Instagram us, Facebook us at bookretorts.
All right, well, until next time, bye.
Take care, everybody. You sound like one of those hackers from a 90s film.
I am a hacker from a 90s film, Danielle. Didn't you know I was the original Crash override from Hackers?
It's a shame that movie has already been seen by both of us.
All right, hacking complete, Danielle. I'm in.